Good evening. Welcome to the ShadowTrader Video Weekly for Sunday, October 17th, 2010. Last week's call on the market moving higher seemed to be correct. That's essentially what did happen last week. I uh, was pointing out that there was very little news in the early part of the week, plus it was options expiry, so that lack of economic data allowed the technicals to take over and allowed the market to just float higher, which it did, and also the current relationship between the dollar and stocks, which seems to be constantly moving inverse, is also pumping up the market. So in the coming week ahead, I would expect that we do keep going a little bit higher. There's a lot of really important earnings coming up in this coming week, and I'm going to get to that in a second. But first, let's just take a quick look to remind ourselves of this dollar stock relationship. You can see that the uh, dollar index here is as shown by this ETF UUP has just been going straight down. We did have a little bit of a bounce here on Friday's action, right, with a lot of big volume there. I don't know if this is telling us that that's the end, but to me, the end would have to be here, right, down at these prior lows here. So it looks to me like we have one more push to go in the dollar. Dollar will find some support here against this, basket of other currencies, and that could put the kink in the armor here. And interestingly enough, I like how the 200 period moving average on the S&P is just above us right here. So perhaps the dollar makes that one last push lower before enjoying a little bit of a technical bounce at least, and stocks push up a little bit higher. Now, as far as individual issues in the coming week, this is going to be one of the hottest weeks for earnings in terms of the big names. Google already just blew everybody out of the water on Thursday evening, and that's what created this move here. You don't see it on the weekly chart, but on the daily chart, there it is. So you see this 60-point move in Google on Friday, which was mostly in the gap. Coming up, we've got a lot of big names here. We've got Baidu and Apple are going to be giving it to us both on the same day, actually. Let me pull this up for you guys. Check this out. We've got, move this MSN thing here up. And check it out. This is Monday, 10/18. We've got Apple. Very important. I don't know why Baidu isn't listed here, but I'm pretty sure they're also going to be Monday. Tuesday is going to be GS in the morning, which is important. And again, I'm not understanding why that's not listed here. There it is, Goldman Sachs. Okay, cool. I just want to make sure I wasn't going nuts. I knew I wrote down the right days. Netflix is going to be on Wednesday. That's in the PM. So keep an eye on that. That's going to be very important. So all of these are really like the hot stocks that everybody's watching that are really like moving a bit, right? This is what's really kind of, I think, moving the market. The Nasdaq's been hot. Some of the tech stuff has been hot. After that, we're going to get Amazon on Thursday. All right, so keep an eye on this. Here, I think I scrolled down too much. Doesn't matter. But keep an eye on this. There we go. There's Amazon.com. So that's going to be Thursday. Okay, so you can check that out on the MSN site. Real easy. So with all these big names, we should have a catalyst for the market moving higher, and also tuning in with that dollar chart that to me seems like it is going to have one more push lower. I don't know that this one-day move here is any sort of big reversal. It was the first time in a while that gold actually had a red candle and it was down day. I'm still looking for some sort of a pullback entry in gold, but it's just not giving it to me. I mean, who knows? Also, be aware that the stocks that I mentioned just now are all weekly options. And, I've been doing a lot with these weekly options. So it's interesting, though, because what I usually look at in these weekly options is I try to find out where the stock I think is going to go over the course of the week, and then I'll structure my option position accordingly, which obviously would make the most sense, right? Let's say I know that the stock is pulling back. Apple's a good example here. Sell weekly puts here because you have confidence that there's strong support at the 20 or whatever. Or Apple is here. You have 4 or 5 days to go. Buy broken wing butterfly 290, 300, 320, and you want it to move into the pocket, things like that, right? However, be aware of this when it's earnings week, and especially with things being very volatile. Goog, putting up 60 points in a day, I tend to just stay away from these things because you don't really know what direction it's going to go, and it's really kind of a wild card. So all the stocks that I mentioned that are all reporting, all of these have weekly options. That's Baidu does, which I think it's going to be very interesting to see how this moves off of its earnings next week, because it is in a consolidation phase, right? And remember that whatever this this action here is building up pressure. So any large gap in either direction is going to be playable probably for a really good day trade on that day. I think the stock continues to move. Apple is only going one direction but up. I don't know what's going to happen with them. Goldman Sachs is interesting as well because they're going to report and they're kind of in the middle of the road here. Netflix also in a consolidation phase, and I was saying that I like the stock around 145. It's still not coming into the trend line. I don't know if we do get a little bit of a dip down. Probably the earnings are going to set it off a little bit, and Amazon.com already just kind of took off ahead of its numbers and is breaking out of the consolidation and is moving higher. But anyway, in general, me personally, I tend to play a little bit conservatively close to the vest, so I will not be messing with any weekly options on the earnings. All right. That's about all I have for this week, actually. Relatively short video. I think the bias is still to the upside. I think there's a little bit of more room for dollar weakness on this weekly chart, so it would make sense to me that stocks would continue to float up. Coming up ahead of us on the S&P, do remember we have that 200 period moving average on the weekly, which I think is important. Remember, the 200 is important on whatever time frame you look at. So coming up to this blue line here. And that's about it. So mildly bullish, I would say, into the coming week. We'll also need to be aware the market, I think, is kind of pricing in advance what's going to happen on November 3rd, which is probably going to be the most important FOMC announcement we've had in a very, very long time, where they may or may not announce that the second round of quantitative easing is going to be coming into play, and we'll see how the markets react to that. I'm going to talk more about that on the video next week and the weekend after, more than likely, right? Because that's going to be our last video before that happens. All right, so things to keep in mind. On behalf of myself and the entire ShadowTrader team here in beautiful Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and of course, as always, from all the good people in Chicago, Illinois, at the one and only Thinkorswim, I wish you good trading and good night.